The massive space station hung in the darkness like a glowing jewel. Kepler Prime Station was the pride of the Galactic Council, a structure so large it could house entire cities within its metal walls. Ships from 12 different alien species docked at its ports, their crews hurrying through corridors that buzzed with urgent activity. In the central chamber, 12 beings sat around a circular table made from pure crystalline material. Each represented a different species that had ruled the galaxy for over 1,000 years. Today they faced a problem that threatened everything they had built. Speaker Vex Thara rose from her chair, her crystal body catching the light and throwing rainbow patterns across the walls. The Zephyrian leader stood nearly 9 feet tall, her voice echoing through the chamber like music played through broken glass. "We are here because of the humans," she said, her words carrying the weight of ancient authority. "They have gone too far this time." The other council members shifted in their seats. General Techmore, a massive creature covered in thick scales, slammed his clawed hand on the table. The Drekmari warrior's eyes glowed red with anger. "The humans mock us," he growled. "They build military bases in the neutral zone. They ignore our laws. They spread through space like a disease." Ambassador Keltar, a thin being with skin like liquid metal, nodded slowly. "When they first left their homeworld, we thought they were just another young species. We were wrong. In 50 years, they have claimed more territory than most species take in 500. The hologram in the center of the table showed the current state of human space. Red dots marked their colonies, military bases, and trade routes. The expansion was shocking. What had started as a small cluster around Earth had grown into a vast network spanning hundreds of star systems. "They call themselves the Terran Empire now," said Counselor Yithva, her tentacles writhing with disgust. "Empire. Such arrogance from creatures who learned to fly between stars only yesterday. Their technology advances too quickly," added Prime Zendel, his multiple eyes blinking in sequence. "Our spies report weapons and ships that should be impossible for such a young species." Speaker Vexathera raised her hand for silence. "The question is not what they have done, but what we will do about it. For too long we have watched and waited. Now they threaten the balance that has kept peace in our galaxy." The council chamber fell quiet. Each member knew that this moment would change everything. The Galactic Council had never directly threatened a species before. They preferred to work through trade agreements, diplomatic pressure, and carefully managed conflicts. But the humans had grown too strong too fast. "I propose we give them an ultimatum," Vexathara continued. "They must withdraw from the neutral zone. They must destroy their military bases in disputed space, and they must agree to limits on their future expansion." "And if they refuse?" asked General Techmore, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. "Then we show them the price of defying the Council." Light years away, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the TSS Vengeance, watching the stars through the massive viewing screen. The ship was humanity's pride, a dreadnought, class vessel that stretched over 2 miles from bow to stern. Its hull was dark gray metal, covered with weapon systems that could destroy entire fleets. Morrison was a tall man in his 50s, with gray hair and scars from a dozen battles. He had fought in the Outer Rim Wars where humans first proved they could stand against alien forces. Now he commanded the most powerful ship in human space. "Admiral," called Captain Lisa Harper from her station, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council." Morrison turned to face his tactical officer. Harper was young for her rank, barely 30, but she had earned her position through skill and courage. Her dark hair was pulled back in a regulation style, and her brown eyes showed the sharp intelligence that made her one of the fleet's best officers. "Put it on screen," Morrison ordered. The image that appeared showed Speaker Vexathera in all her crystalline glory. Her voice filled the bridge with its strange musical quality. "Admiral Morrison of the Terran Empire. I speak for the Galactic Council. Your species has violated the expansion accords by establishing military installations in the neutral zone. You have ignored our territorial boundaries and threatened the peace of the galaxy." Morrison felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his expression neutral. Around him, his crew continued their work, but he could sense their tension. Therefore, Vexithara continued, the Council demands the following. You will withdraw all human forces from the disputed sectors within 72 standard hours. You will dismantle your military installations in these regions, and you will accept permanent restrictions on human expansion beyond your current borders. The speaker's image seemed to grow larger, more imposing. Failure to comply with these demands will result in immediate military action. The combined fleets of the Council will enforce our will. This is not a negotiation, Admiral. This is an ultimatum. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Morrison stared at the blank screen for a long moment, then turned to his senior staff. Well, he said quietly, it seems the Council has finally decided to deal with the human problem. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Blake, the ship's intelligence officer, stepped forward. He was a thin man with pale skin and sharp features, known for his ability to gather information others missed. Sir, our deep space sensors have detected massive fleet movements in Council space. They've been building up forces for months. How many ships? Morrison asked. Conservative estimate? 3,000 vessels, maybe more. They're bringing everything. They have. Captain Harper shook her head. 3,000 ships. That's 10 times the size of our entire fleet. Morrison smiled grimly. They think numbers will win this war. They don't understand what they're really facing. He walked to the communications console and opened a channel to Earth. Get me Emperor Kane. Priority 1. As the connection was established, Morrison looked out at the stars again. The Council thought they were dealing with a young species that had gotten too big for its boots. They had no idea what humanity had been preparing for this moment. The ultimatum was a mistake. The Council had just given the Terran Empire exactly what it needed, a reason to show the galaxy what humans were really capable of. Your Majesty, Morrison said as Kane's image appeared on screen. We've received the Council's ultimatum. They want us to withdraw and accept limits on our expansion. Emperor Kane's face remained calm, but Morrison could see the steel in his eyes. What's your recommendation, Admiral? Morrison's smile was cold and sharp. I recommend we show them why they should have left us alone. Emperor Marcus Kane stood in the command center of Terra Prime, watching data streams flow across dozens of screens. The planet's capital city stretched beyond the reinforced windows, its towers reaching toward the stars. But Kane's attention was focused on the holographic display showing the entire galaxy, with red markers indicating Council fleet positions. Kane was a man in his 40s with dark hair and steady blue eyes. He had built the Terran Empire from scattered colonies into a force that now controlled over 200 star systems. His advisors called him a visionary. His enemies called him dangerous. Both were right. The Council thinks they can intimidate us, Kane said to the assembled War Council. They believe overwhelming numbers will make us surrender without a fight. General Patricia Wells, a stern woman with silver hair, studied the tactical displays. She commanded every ground force in human space, from Marine battalions to planetary defense corps. Her record in the Outer Rim Wars had earned her respect from soldiers across the Empire. Their intelligence is outdated, Wells said. They still think we're the same species that barely escaped Earth 50 years ago. Admiral Scott Turner, head of the Terran Naval Command, nodded agreement. Turner was a heavy-set man with a thick beard, known for his ability to coordinate massive fleet operations. Our deep space monitoring shows they're moving everything they have. This isn't just about the neutral zone anymore. They want to crush us completely. Kane walked to the central display and touched a control. The hologram changed to show human territory, but now it revealed something the Council had never seen. Hidden bases appeared as blue dots, scattered throughout supposedly empty space. Weapons platforms materialized around major colonies. The true size of the human military became clear. Project Prometheus has been operational for 5 years, Kane said. Every system we've colonized has been fortified. Every trade route has been protected. We've been preparing for this war since the day we left Earth. The Emperor touched another control. The display showed ship construction facilities hidden inside asteroids, weapons research labs in the deep void, and manufacturing centers that could build entire fleets in months instead of years. They think they know what we're capable of. Kane continued. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Commander Amy Foster entered the command center, her face flushed with excitement. She was a small woman with short red hair and quick green eyes, known throughout the intelligence service for her ability to infiltrate any target. Her latest mission had taken her deep into council space. "Sir," Foster said, "Operation Shadowfall is complete. We've placed monitoring devices in every major council communication hub. We can track their fleet movements in real time." Kane smiled. "Excellent. What's their current status?" 3 fleets are converging on our border. The Drakmari are bringing their battle cruisers. The Zephyrians have their crystal ships. The Altarians are providing support vessels. Total count is just over 3,000 ships. "And they think that's enough," Admiral Turner said with a laugh. "They have no idea what they're walking into." Kane activated the Empire-wide communication network. His image would now appear on every human world, every space station, every ship in the fleet. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of absolute command. "Citizens of the Terran Empire," Kane began. "The Galactic Council has issued an ultimatum. They demand we withdraw from territories we have legally colonized. They demand we destroy military bases built to protect our people. They demand we accept limits on our growth and expansion." The Emperor's voice grew harder. "I reject their demands completely. The Terran Empire bows to no alien authority. We will not be contained, controlled, or conquered." On the bridge of the TSS Vengeance, Admiral Morrison watched the Emperor's speech with his senior staff. Around them, the crew prepared for what they all knew would be the largest space battle in human history. "Our response will be swift and decisive," Kane continued. "Today I order the deployment of the Terran Defense Initiative. Every ship in our fleet will take position to defend human space. Every colony will activate its planetary shields. Every citizen will stand ready to fight for our freedom." Captain Harper checked her tactical display. "Admiral, we're getting reports from across the fleet. All ships are moving to assigned positions." Morrison nodded. "Good. Blake, what's the status on our special projects?" Lieutenant Commander Blake consulted his datapad. "The Ragnarok has left its hiding place in the Void Nebula. It should be visible to Council sensors within the hour." "Perfect," Morrison said. "Let them see what they're really dealing with." Back on Terra Prime, Kane was revealing humanity's true capabilities to the galaxy. The broadcast was being transmitted to every inhabited world, ensuring that every species would witness what happened next. "The Council fears human expansion," Kane said. "They fear our technology, our determination, our refusal to accept limits. Today I will show them that their fears are justified." The Emperor gestured to the display behind him. It showed the Ragnarok, a massive vessel that dwarfed even the largest Council ships. The planet-killer weapon was humanity's most closely guarded secret, capable of destroying entire worlds with a single shot. "This is the TES Ragnarok," Kane announced. "One of 12 similar vessels constructed in the deepest regions of space. Each one represents technology the Council cannot comprehend. Each one carries the power to reshape the galaxy." On Kepler, Prime Station, the Council members watched the human broadcast with growing alarm. Speaker Vexithara's crystal body flickered with nervous energy. "Impossible," she whispered. "Our intelligence said they had no planet-killer capability." General Thekmore's scaled hands clenched into fists. "They've been lying to us, hiding their true strength." Kane's broadcast continued. "To the species of the galaxy who have suffered under Council rule, I offer you a choice. Join us in building a new order based on freedom and mutual respect. The age of Council domination is ending." The response was immediate. Across the galaxy, worlds that had been forced to accept Council authority began declaring independence. The Kepler Federation announced its withdrawal from the Council alliance. The Altarian Republic followed hours later. Kane's final words echoed across space. "To the Galactic Council, I say this. You have 72 hours to withdraw your fleets from human space. After that, we will consider your presence an act of war. Choose wisely." The broadcast ended, leaving the galaxy in shocked silence. The Council's ultimatum had been answered with a counter-ultimatum that was far more dangerous. Humanity had revealed that they were not the weak species the Council believed them to be. Admiral Morrison smiled as he watched Council ships begin to scatter on his sensors. Some were retreating, but others were moving forward, accepting the challenge. "Well," he said to his crew, "it looks like we're going to have that war after all." The TSS Vengeance and her sister ships powered their weapons and prepared for battle. The Council had made their choice, and now they would face the consequences. The Terran Empire was ready to show the galaxy what humans could do when pushed too far. Emperor Kane stood before the War Council in his command center, his eyes burning with cold determination. The time for defensive fighting was over. The Council wanted to see human power, and he would give them a demonstration they would never forget. "Operation Prometheus is now active," Kane announced. "We will not wait for them to attack our worlds. We will take the fight to them." Admiral Scott Turner activated the holographic display showing the entire galaxy. Red markers indicated Council strongholds that had stood unchallenged for centuries. Blue arrows showed the attack routes human fleets would take to reach their targets. "Simultaneous strikes on 12 worlds," Turner explained. "The goal is not conquest, but demonstration. We will show every species in the galaxy that the Council cannot protect even their own territory." General Patricia Wells studied the tactical data with professional interest. "The Drakmari homeworld will be heavily defended. Their warrior culture means they'll fight to the death." "Which is why we won't give them the chance," Kane replied. "This operation will prove that human technology has advanced beyond anything the Council can comprehend." The Emperor opened a communication channel to Admiral Morrison aboard the TSS Vengeance. "Admiral, you will lead the assault on the Drakmari system. Show them what happens when they threaten humanity." Morrison smiled grimly. "It will be my pleasure, Your Majesty." The Drakmari homeworld of Kethtar hung in space like a red jewel, surrounded by the most powerful defensive network in Council space. Orbital platforms bristled with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. The planet's surface was covered with cities that looked more like military fortresses than civilian settlements. Admiral Turner's flagship, the TSS Retribution, led a fleet of 30 human vessels toward the Drakmari system. The ships moved in, perfect formation, their dark hulls reflecting the light of distant stars. "Sir," reported the tactical officer, "we're detecting over 200 defensive platforms. Energy readings are off the charts." Turner nodded calmly. "Activate the solar collectors. Let's show them what stellar engineering can accomplish." From the human ships came devices that looked like giant flowers made of metal and crystal. They spread out across space and began absorbing energy directly from the Drakmari sun. Within minutes, they were channeling the power of an entire star into massive shield generators. The Drakmari defenders watched in horror as a protective barrier formed around the human fleet. The shield was powered by their own sun, making it stronger than anything they could break through. "Impossible," whispered General Thekmore from his command center on the planet's surface. "They're using our star against us." The human fleet moved closer, their solar-powered shields deflecting every shot the Drakmari fired. Weapons that should have vaporized the human ships barely made ripples in the energy barrier. "Return fire," Turner ordered. "Target their orbital platforms." The TSS Retribution unleashed a barrage of quantum torpedoes that phased through the Drakmari shields like they didn't exist. Platform after platform exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Within an hour, the entire defensive network was destroyed. But Turner wasn't finished. He opened a communication channel to the planet below. "People of Kethtar," he said, his voice carrying across every communication device on the world. "Your leaders brought this war to humanity. Now you see the price of their arrogance. Your defenses are gone. Your fleets are scattered. But we offer you something your council never gave others: mercy." The message was clear. Humanity could destroy their world if they chose. Instead, they were offering a chance for peace. Meanwhile, in the Zephyrian system, Captain Danny Rogers was leading a very different kind of mission. The crystal beings lived in cities that floated in the clouds of their gas giant homeworld. Their technology was based on light and energy, making them seem almost magical to other species. Phase shift armor activated. Rogers reported to his team. Remember, we're not here to destroy. We're here to prove a point. His Marines wore suits that could alter their molecular structure, allowing them to pass through solid matter like ghosts. It was technology that should have been impossible, but human science had made it real. The team moved through the floating cities unseen, their phase-shift armor making them invisible to Zephyrian sensors. They reached the planet's defense control center without firing a single shot. Disable their systems, Rogers ordered, but don't hurt anyone. Within minutes, every defensive platform around the gas giant went dark. The Zephyrians found themselves completely helpless, their crystal ships unable to fight back against an enemy they couldn't see or touch. Rogers opened a communication channel to the Zephyrian leadership. Your defenses are offline. Your cities are at our mercy. But humanity does not make war on civilians. We offer you the same choice we gave the Drakmari: surrender and join us in building a better galaxy. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on world after world. Human fleets appeared without warning, their advanced technology making Council defenses useless. But instead of destruction, they offered alliance. Commander Betty Stone led the diplomatic efforts, speaking to species that had been under Council rule for centuries. Her message was simple: the old order was ending, and humanity offered something better. We don't want to rule you, she told the leaders of the Altarian Republic. We want to work with you. The Council kept you weak and divided. We offer strength through unity. The response was overwhelming. Species that had never dared to challenge Council authority suddenly found the courage to declare independence. The promise of human protection gave them hope for the first time in generations. Dr. Helen Price worked tirelessly to share human technology with their new allies. Medical advances that could extend lifespans, energy systems that could power entire worlds, manufacturing techniques that could end scarcity forever. This is how we win, she explained to Emperor Kane. Not through conquest, but through cooperation. We give them reasons to choose us over the Council. The strategy was working perfectly. The Council's political structure was collapsing as member species abandoned their alliance. Fear of human technology was being replaced by desire for human partnership. But the greatest shock came at the end of the operation. The massive planet killer Ragnarok appeared above Kepler Prime Station, its weapons powered and ready to fire. The Council's seat of power was completely defenseless. Admiral Morrison opened a communication channel to the Council chambers. Distinguished members of the Galactic Council, he said with cold politeness, I believe you wanted to discuss terms of surrender. Speaker Vexithara's crystal form flickered with terror as she stared at the massive human weapon. The Ragnarok was large enough to destroy the entire station with a single shot. Millions of beings lived aboard Kepler Prime, and they were all at humanity's mercy. What do you want? She whispered. Morrison's smile was sharp as a blade. We want what we've always wanted. The right to exist without interference, the right to grow and explore, the right to determine our own destiny. He paused, letting his words sink in. The Council tried to deny us those rights. Now you face the consequences. Your fleets are scattered. Your worlds are defenseless. Your political alliance is falling apart. The Council members sat in stunned silence. In less than a week, their 1,000-year-old empire had been reduced to ruins. The humans had not just defeated them militarily, they had made them irrelevant. However, Morrison continued, humanity is not interested in revenge. We offer you the same choice we gave your former subjects. Join us in building a new galactic order based on cooperation instead of domination. Emperor Kane's voice echoed across the galaxy as he broadcast the final terms. The age of Council rule is over. The age of the Galactic Federation begins now. All species are welcome to join as equals. All species are free to choose their own path. The greatest military campaign in galactic history was over. Humanity had won without destroying a single world or killing a single civilian. They had achieved something far more valuable than conquest. They had won the respect and loyalty of hundreds of species. The Council's ultimatum had indeed backfired spectacularly. In trying to contain humanity, they had instead given them the chance to reshape the entire galaxy. General Techmore stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Crimson Fang, watching 3,000 council ships move through space like a metal storm. The Drakmari warrior had fought in dozens of wars, but never had he commanded such a massive force. Every species in the council had contributed their best vessels and most experienced crews. The humans cannot stand against this, he growled to his second-in-command. No species has ever faced the combined might of the council and survived. The general's confidence was shared throughout the fleet. Council strategists had calculated that humanity possessed maybe 300 warships at most. Even if every human vessel was superior to council technology, the numbers were impossible to overcome. 10-to-1 odds were bad enough. These odds were 30-to-1. Admiral Morrison received the sensor reports on his bridge and smiled grimly. The council fleet was exactly where human intelligence had predicted it would be. 3 massive formations approaching from different directions, trying to surround human space and force a quick surrender. They're following standard council doctrine, Captain Harper observed. Overwhelming force applied at multiple points. Which is exactly what we expected, Morrison replied. Blake, are our surprise packages in position? Lieutenant Commander Blake checked his displays. All stealth platforms are active, sir. The council has no idea we're already behind their lines. Morrison nodded. The council fleet looked impressive on sensors, but appearances could be deceiving. Hidden among the asteroids and debris fields of 3-star systems, human stealth platforms waited with weapons that could tear through any known shield technology. Signal the fleet, Morrison ordered. Operation Checkmate begins now. The first engagement took place in the Kepler system, where 50 Zephyrian crystal ships had been sent to test human defenses. The Zephyrians were proud of their vessels, which could bend light around their hulls and fire energy beams that could cut through solid metal like paper. Captain Danny Rogers commanded the TSS Thunderbolt, one of humanity's newest destroyers. His ship was smaller than the Zephyrian vessels, but it carried technology that the aliens had never encountered. Contact bearing 27 Mark 15, reported his sensor officer. 50 ships moving in standard attack formation. Rogers studied the display. The Zephyrian ships were beautiful, their crystal hulls catching starlight and throwing it back in rainbow patterns. They moved with the graceful confidence of a species that had never known defeat in space combat. Power up the quantum torpedoes, Rogers ordered. Let's see how their shields handle dimensional warfare. The Thunderbolt fired 12 torpedoes that seemed to vanish the moment they left their tubes. The Zephyrian commander watched his sensors, with confusion as the human weapons simply disappeared from detection. Where did they go? He demanded of his crew. Nothing can just vanish in space. The answer came seconds later, when the quantum torpedoes rematerialized inside the Zephyrian ships. The weapons existed in multiple dimensions at once, allowing them to bypass any conventional shield or armor. 12 crystal ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The surviving Zephyrians tried to return fire, but their energy beams passed harmlessly through the Thunderbolt's adaptive shields. The human technology analyzed each incoming attack and adjusted its defenses in real time. Within 10 minutes, all 50 Zephyrian ships were destroyed. The Thunderbolt had not suffered a single hit. News of the battle spread through the council fleet like wildfire. General Techmore stared at the casualty reports with disbelief. An entire squadron eliminated by one human ship. It was impossible. Sir, his communications officer called out. We're receiving a message from the Altarian Republic. They're withdrawing from the Alliance. More bad news followed. The Kepler Federation had officially declared neutrality. 3 minor species had switched sides completely, offering to join the human alliance. The council fleet was falling apart. Before the real battle had even begun, Dr. Helen Price worked frantically in her laboratory aboard the TSS Vengeance, analyzing wreckage from the destroyed Zephyrian ships. As the fleet's chief science officer, she needed to understand how their weapons had performed in actual combat. Fascinating, she murmured, as she studied the data. The quantum torpedoes work even better than our simulations predicted. Price was a brilliant woman in her 30s with brown hair and green eyes that missed nothing. She had designed many of the weapon systems that were proving so effective against Council forces. The dimensional phase technology completely bypassed their shields, she told Admiral Morrison over the comm system. Their defensive systems couldn't even detect the torpedoes until they were already inside their ships. Morrison felt a grim satisfaction. Humanity had spent decades developing weapons specifically designed to counter known alien technologies. Every Council species had weaknesses, and human scientists had found ways to exploit them all. The second engagement took place near the Vega system, where a mixed Council force of 200 ships encountered 3 human vessels. The aliens expected an easy victory, but the human ships immediately disappeared from sensors. Commander Betty Stone commanded the stealth destroyer TSS Shadow, one of the most advanced ships in the human fleet. Her vessel could bend light and energy around its hull, making it completely invisible to conventional detection methods. All ships activate phase shift mode, Stone ordered. Let's show them what happens when they can't see their enemy. The 3 human ships became ghosts, striking without warning and vanishing before the Council forces could respond. Their weapons seemed to come from empty space, tearing through alien hulls with devastating precision. The Council admiral tried desperately to coordinate a defense, but how could you fight an enemy you couldn't see? His ships fired blindly into space while human torpedoes struck from impossible angles. When the battle ended 20 minutes later, 180 Council ships had been destroyed. The 3 human vessels had vanished back into the void without taking any damage. General Theckamore received the reports with growing rage and fear. His massive fleet was being picked apart by enemies who fought like demons. Nothing in Council military doctrine had prepared them for this kind of warfare. "How many ships have we lost?" he demanded. "Over 400, sir," his aide replied quietly, "and we haven't managed to destroy a single human vessel." The truth was becoming clear to everyone in the Council fleet. They had not cornered a desperate enemy. They had awakened something far more dangerous than they had imagined. On Terra Prime, Emperor Kane watched the battle reports with cold satisfaction. The Council fleet was exactly where he wanted it, spread out, demoralized, and completely unprepared for what came next. "Phase 2, he ordered. "Release the Ragnarok." In the Void Nebula, the massive planet killer began moving toward Council space. Its appearance on long-range sensors sent panic through the alien fleets. The ship was larger than anything they had ever seen, bristling with weapons that could destroy entire worlds. General Theckamore stared at the approaching monster and realized the horrible truth. The Council had not declared war on a young species. They had challenged the most dangerous military force in the galaxy. The humans had been hiding their true strength for decades, waiting for exactly this moment. Now the mask was off, and the galaxy would see what the Terran Empire was really capable of. The Council's great fleet suddenly seemed very small and very fragile. The Great Hall on Terra Prime had never seen anything like this before. Representatives from over 500 species filled the massive chamber, their voices creating a symphony of different languages and sounds. What had started as the Galactic Council's attempt to crush humanity had become the birth of something entirely new. Emperor Kane stood at the center podium, watching as delegates took their seats. Former enemies sat beside new allies. Species that had been at war for centuries now worked together to build a better future. The transformation was remarkable. Speaker Vexithara approached the human emperor, her crystal form moving with careful dignity. The Zephyrian leader had been among the first to accept the new order after seeing what human technology could accomplish. "Your Majesty," she said, her musical voice carrying notes of respect that had been absent during their first encounter. "The Zephyrian Collective formally requests membership in the Galactic Federation." Kane nodded graciously. "Welcome, Speaker. Your people's knowledge of energy manipulation will be valuable to our joint research projects." Similar scenes played out across the hall as former Council members formally joined the new alliance. The Drakmari, despite their warrior culture, had been impressed by humanity's display of strength tempered with mercy. General Theckamore himself had requested to serve in the Federation Defense Force. Admiral Morrison entered the hall wearing the new uniform of the Federation's Supreme Commander. The combined fleet he now commanded included ships from dozens of species, their different technologies working together in ways that had never been possible under Council rule. "Admiral," Kane said as Morrison approached. "How are the integration efforts proceeding?" "Better than expected, sir," Morrison replied. "The Drakmari battlecruisers work well with our destroyers. The Zephyrian crystal ships provide excellent long-range reconnaissance. Even former enemies are learning to fight as allies." The transformation had been swift but thorough. Within months of the Council's surrender, the old system of fear and domination had been replaced by cooperation and mutual benefit. Species that had been kept weak and divided now had access to human technology and protection. Captain Lisa Harper had been promoted to Admiral and given command of the new Federation Naval Academy on Kepler Prime. The station that had once been the symbol of Council power was now a training ground where officers from all member species learned to work together. "The most important lesson," Harper told her diverse class of cadets, "is that strength comes from unity, not domination. Every species brings unique abilities to our alliance. Our job is to help each other become stronger." The Academy's first graduating class included beings from 30 different worlds. They would serve together on ships that combined the best technology from across the galaxy. The old barriers between species were disappearing as they learned to trust and respect each other. Dr. Helen Price worked in her new laboratory on Terra Prime, leading research teams that included scientists from hundreds of worlds. The sharing of knowledge had led to breakthroughs that no single species could have achieved alone. "The Quantum Drive project is ahead of schedule," she reported to Emperor Kane. "Combining human dimensional technology with Altarian mathematics and Zephyrian energy crystals, we've created engines that can cross the galaxy in days instead of months." The scientific cooperation was producing miracles. Medical advances were extending lifespans across all species. Agricultural improvements were ending hunger on dozens of worlds. Clean energy systems were bringing prosperity to regions that had been poor for centuries. Commander Betty Stone had become the Federation's chief diplomatic officer, working to bring even more species into the alliance. Her success rate was remarkable. The promise of human protection and technology sharing was proving irresistible to worlds tired of Council oppression. "The Outer Rim territories are requesting Federation membership," Stone reported. "They've seen what we've accomplished and want to be part of it." The expansion was voluntary and welcome. Unlike the Council's forced compliance, the Federation grew because species chose to join. They saw the benefits of cooperation and wanted to share in the prosperity that unity brought. Gary Collins, now head of Federation Communications, ensured that information flowed freely between all member worlds. The old Council practice of controlling knowledge and keeping species isolated was ended. Every discovery was shared. Every advance was available to all. "Open communication channels are operating at full capacity," Collins reported. "Scientists on one side of the galaxy can collaborate with researchers on the other side in real time." The transformation extended beyond politics and technology. Cultural exchanges were bringing species together in ways that had never been possible. Art, music, and literature flowed between worlds, creating a rich galactic civilization that celebrated diversity while building unity. Kate Miller led the Federation Marine Corps, which now included warriors from dozens of species. The Drakmari brought their combat expertise, the Altarians contributed their strategic thinking, and humans provided the advanced equipment that made them all more effective. "We're not just soldiers anymore," Miller explained to her troops. "We're guardians of freedom. Our job is to protect any species that asks for help regardless of their size or power." The new military philosophy was based on protection rather than conquest. The Federation Defense Force existed to maintain peace and defend the weak, not to impose the will of the strong. Emperor Kane stepped forward to address the assembled delegates for the formal founding ceremony of the Galactic Federation. The document they were about to sign would replace the old Council charter with something based on equality and mutual respect. The Council's ultimatum was meant to limit human expansion, Kane began, his voice carrying to every corner of the Great Hall. Instead, it gave us the opportunity to show the galaxy what we were truly capable of, not just in war, but in peace. Gestured to the diverse crowd before him. Today, we establish a new order where no species stands alone, where strength is shared rather than hoarded, where knowledge belongs to all rather than a privileged few. The Emperor's words were translated into hundreds of languages, but their meaning was universal. The age of fear and domination was over. The age of cooperation and growth had begun. The Council feared that humanity would change the galaxy. Kane continued. They were right. But we have not destroyed what came before. We have built something better on its foundation. One by one, the delegates came forward to sign the Federation Charter. Former enemies stood together as equals. Species that had been kept apart for centuries now worked as partners. The Council's greatest fear had become the galaxy's greatest hope. As the ceremony concluded, Kane reflected on how far they had come. The Council's ultimatum had been intended to stop human expansion. Instead, it had created an empire unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. Not an empire of conquest, but an empire of cooperation. Not built on fear, but on hope. The Terran Empire had evolved into something greater than anyone had imagined. The Galactic Federation would bring peace and prosperity to countless worlds, all because the Council had made one crucial mistake. They had tried to limit humanity's potential instead of embracing it. Now the entire galaxy would benefit from what human determination and alien wisdom could accomplish together. The Council's ultimatum had indeed backfired spectacularly, but in the end, everyone had won.